now. So everyone is aware that we are now recording. Great. So about BOSQA. So BOSQA represents 26 agencies that include cities, water districts, and water company, and a university that purchased whole water cells from the San Francisco Regional Water System. The BOSQA member agencies provide water to 1.8 million people and over 40,000 businesses. And their goal is to provide high quality supply of water at a fair price. Program objectives today: outdoor water use represents the single largest untapped opportunity for water conservation in the BOSQA service area. Outdoor water use reduction through the use of water efficient plants and innovative technologies can help conserve water. So that's what we're going to be learning about today through tree selection and proper tree watering. I want to go in some ways that you can save through multiple different programs, whether it be through our Valley Water Partnership Program, which include you can receive a $400 rebate per laundry gray water system installed. We also have a rain barrel rebate where you can get $70 per barrel. We also have rebates on cisterns and as well as rebates on lawn conversion, so $4 per square foot replaced. More ways to save. We also have our Water Smart app, which we all encourage people to use. So this is a platform where you can actually detect leaks. You'll get leak alerts through this program. It's really great if you're a Palo Alto resident. We really encourage you to use your Water Smart app. Also, we encourage residents to take advantage of free mulch at the Hopkins tennis courts and at Mitchell Park. We also have free compost giveaway stations at Eleanor Community Garden as well. More ways to save. So we also have a Palo Alto heat pump water heater program. We do a full service program for our whole pump water heaters as well as an emergency replacement program. So if your water heater goes out, we'll replace that water heater within 2 days. It's a really great program that we encourage you to use. We also have brand new rebates and resources for the city of Palo Alto. So our new rebates include a $2,500 for heat pump HVAC system, as well as an additional rebate for removing your gas meter. And other resources that are brand new to our Electrify My Home website, which is linked here. I'll also share that link in the chat in a second. Is our new hub, which has free home assessments and free expert help. So you're able to actually set time with a consultant and sit down and get free home electrification advice, as well as a new Rock Rabbit rebate hub. So any rebates that you apply through the city for electrification program is done all in one place in this hub. It's seamless, it's easy. You can find contractors as well as set up your permits all through this amazing rebate hub that we have set up for our residents. So highly encourage everyone to take a look. And again, I can share links in the chat after this presentation. Additional ways to save. So lawns gone, you can pay to transform your lawn, $1 to $4 per square foot lawn replaced, and also up to $200 rebate for rain barrels. Some more ways to save. So there's some smart console rebates and installation rebates on BOSQA's website. And BOSQA also has an additional rain garden rebate program. So all rain garden projects that meet minimum requirements can receive a rebate of $300. So just go and checking out BOSQA's website to see all these resources and rebates. Some other additional information and resources. We also have our South Bay Green Gardens website, as well as additional videos on our waystosave.org on landscaping tips and ways to save and more. Also, if you want to see all of Valley Water's rebates and resources, we highly encourage you to go to Valley Water WaterWise portal. Here are some upcoming classes for both BOSQA and the city of Palo Alto. Most of them do highlight landscape and gardening. There is an EV and e-bike expo coming up soon for the city of Palo Alto on March 29th. That's going to be at Mitchell Park. We actually have a bunch of EVs come out. You can test drive, you can see e-bikes. It's a really fun event, and I highly encourage everyone to sign up. You can sign up at these websites either at Bosqua, or you can go to the city website, City of Palo Alto/workshops. So the BayAreaGardening.org, just more resources on water-wise gardening and being water efficient in your landscapes. All right, so we're going to be turning over to Ebony Wang. She is a certified arborist who has been working in urban forestry. She is currently with Canopy as a tree care coordinator. So Ebony, if you don't mind turning on your camera and sharing your slides, you could take it away for your presentation. Thank you.
Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
We can, but it's on presentation mode. Currently, we see it in the non-slideshow. Yeah. There you go. We see it in presentation mode now. Thank you.
Now we're in the right spot. Okay. Let me just get my notes set up here. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Bosca, for having me. I am. We recently did a little bit of of title changes. Recently, I mean recently as in less than a month ago. So my title is now Community Forester with Canopy, still with Canopy. And like Olivia said earlier, my name is Ebony Wang, and I've been with Canopy for 2.5 years now. And I'm not quite certified, just a slight clarification. I'm not quite certified yet, but I am on my way to that. So look forward to that in the next year. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about tree selection, watering, and care. So this one, they all kind of work together, which makes sense as to why they're all together. Our topics today, I'm going to breeze through the beginning part, and so we can get to the bulk of everything that you all want to know, specifically young tree care, right tree, right place, and probably even lawn transitions and graywater systems. So about Canopy. Yikes. Okay. So those of you who do know Canopy and have been to one of our planting events or any of our community events, we've probably mentioned but for those of you who have not heard or met us before, our mission is specifically to grow the urban tree canopy in the Mid-Peninsula for the benefit of all. And we do that by planting trees or caring for trees, giving schools and adults varying levels of education. We have adult programs like our tree walks and our community forestry school for adults. And then for kids, we do school lessons. And then our last program is centered around advocacy, where we work with city officials and municipalities to kind of get them to answer this main question: how do we ensure access to nature and to the benefit of trees as our cities continue to develop? Now, as the city of Palo Alto has invited us to speak today, I wanted to talk about our briefly touch on our South Palo Alto Tree Initiative, which, since 2016, we've planted over 500 trees. And it's a program for all residents south of Oregon Expressway to receive a free tree from Canopy or more than one tree. And then we have also helped in putting the word out on the new tree protection ordinance that was updated in 2022. Aside from our work in Palo Alto, our other service areas include Mountain View, East Palo Alto, the neighborhood of Bellhaven in East Menlo Park, and then North Fair Oaks unincorporated in San Mateo County. And in all of these 5 service areas, we have varying levels of engagement with the community, and it's completely dependent on what the needs of that area are. So next we want to talk about knowing what trees need what, and then how does that work for you? So in terms of assessing tree needs, you can look at all of these resources, which I believe will be on the City of Palo Alto's website, all these links included. You want to make sure that you know what you're trying to plant and what the needs are for that tree. And figuring out the species, you can use the Urban Tree Key which is a Cal Poly website. Or if you're more of a book person, there's the Californian's Guide to Trees Among Us. And that's a great way to help identify local books or local trees in California. For considering the health of your trees, you want to try to look at specifically what your tree needs. So healthy trees will need less care, but if you feel like your tree doesn't really, like you don't really know what your tree needs, hiring a certified arborist who is trained to look at diseases or anything like that, then a certified arborist will be the best person to help you with that. Other things to note is that young trees need more water than established trees, and we're talking from age 1 to 5. And our website, canopy.org, has pages on care instructions for trees 5 years and younger. Our watering guidelines also help with giving you a very general guideline on specific watering after establishment and before establishment. Again, you'll want to make sure that you are looking specifically for your tree species if it's very specific. Example would be our native oaks. They have a totally different watering guideline after establishment. And so you want to make sure that you're looking at that too. Other things that you want to consider, but might not be like the most important things, and if you have the time and resources to do it, is to take a look at your soil and take a look at other site conditions, like how much sun is your tree going to get, or what other plants do you have nearby, and then how close is the nearest water source. Is it going to be difficult to water, or is it going to be really easy to water? For irrigation, we recommend 15 gallons once a week for the first 3 years. And then every year after that, you want to start weaning it off the water so that we can, get it used to becoming more drought tolerant, what I call drought training. And when you're watering, you want to really focus on deep water, meaning that you are doing all the watering at once and not spreading it out over 5 days. This is to help promote root growth down towards the water table, the groundwater table, instead of up above the ground. And a note to also consider is that if you're going to stop watering your lawn because of the drought, don't stop watering your tree. Your trees are considered a source of a great source of like water conservation, and it's more of an investment to help with the drought. One thing you definitely don't want to do is rely on sprinklers to establish your tree. And then you definitely don't want to water your native oaks in the summer as they really thrive under two conditions: cold and wet, which is our winter, or hot and dry, which is our summer. If it's hot and wet, then they won't do well at all. And it is a good way for root rot to occur. For young tree care, we want to make sure that you are creating like a little water basin, one that similar to this image here, where your soil and mulch creates a little bowl around your tree, and then you're watering inside that bowl, because that is what that's going to help keep your water on site. And then as your tree grows, your drip line, which in the second image here is where those vertical lines are, that's your drip line where water will drip naturally from the leaves. And you'll want to expand your basin as the tree grows. And this is to help make sure that the core roots to your tree are getting the water it needs, the nutrients it needs, and your roots will continue growing and stabilizing itself and not just staying in that one small area from where it was planted. You also want to check your tree for lack of mulch. If you've got bare soil exposed, you want to throw some mulch on that. The mulch will help retain water, and as it degrades over time, the mulch will become new soil, and that soil is going to help in the long run. Inside your drip line, you also want to make sure that you are weeding regularly, specifically making sure that you are not letting too many plants grow right up against the trunk, because that ends up with competing nutrients. These plants are competing, and your tree is less likely to survive, especially if it's a young tree. Now, when we're talking about mulch, this is a really nice example in this image here. But mulch insulates roots from extreme temperatures, slows soil moisture evaporation, reduces water use because you don't need to water as much if your tree is if your soil is regularly moist from the mulch. It's also a great natural weed suppressant and fertilizer, and in that same process prevents soil compaction. Here's an image of what I was describing earlier of expanding your mulch or your mulch basin, your soil basin, to more the side to the drip line as your tree grows, and this will just prevent other plants from stealing its nutrients. Using organic matter such as wood chips with or without leaf matter is ideal. Basically, any organic matter from either naturally occurring from the trees, or if you're able to get free mulch, like Olivia mentioned, that's also a great way to do it too. Trees are actually, in the wild, they're accustomed to having natural mulch from their own trees. or from their own leaves and branches as those break down and create and become soil from there. Now, in an urban setting, we may not necessarily have that much space for it, but if you just kind of rake it in, use a rake and move all your excess material and just kind of do it around any exposed soil, that will count as simpler mulching. And you want to, and to really get that nice weed prevention, you want to do at least 2 to 4 inches and hopefully as far as the drip line. If you're finding that mulching isn't suppressing enough weeds, you can use any kind of a weed cloth that's biodegradable, newspaper or cardboard, essentially anything that degrades itself. So paper. And then you can do it under the mulch, what we call sheet mulching, and then lay the mulch on top of it. That will also help keep your weeds, suppressed. And depending on how much mulch you have regularly, you might want to replenish it every 6 months to a year. And in this picture, we have a kind of don't do when you're mulching is no mulch volcano. You don't want it stacked on top of here because mulch, as it degrades, starts to heat up, and that heat isn't going to be good for our roots. Now to the exciting part. We are actually, before I continue, I feel like I probably breezed through that really, really fast and would like to take a brief second to check in with people on any quick questions they might have.
Yeah, so if anyone has any questions at this time, you can add them into the question and answer box at the bottom of your screen, or you can raise your hand and I can unmute you. And if there, looks like we have a few raised hands. One moment. Linda, you should be able to speak now if you
Great.
unmute.
Great,
Yeah.
thank you. You mentioned wood chips, and we're about to try to spread some wood chips. And you also mentioned there are places to get free wood chips, which would be lovely. Where?
Yeah, so there's...
Yeah, sorry.
I can answer the question on where to get free mulch and wood chips. So here in the city of Palo Alto, we do have 2 locations. So at Hopkins Tennis Court, and then as well as Mitchell Park.
Okay, there was an echo, and I didn't quite get. I got Mitchell Park
and Hopkins Tennis Court.
Mm-hmm.
Hopkins Tennis Court. Where's that?
Let me look it up real quick for you, and I can get back to you.
Well, I can look that up too, for heaven's sakes, of course.
I don't have the exact location. I am echoing though. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you had a question about wood chips, right?
No, we're going to start spreading them, and I just wondered where I could get free ones.
Oh yeah.
Until you answered the question. Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. And I think there were a couple other raised hands. Olivia?
I don't see, this is Linda, I don't see any right now.
Oh, okay then.
But feel free to put in the Q&A.
Yeah, feel free, everyone, if you have a question, feel free to throw it into the Q&A and we'll get back to questions at the very end. I just wanted to make sure that I didn't breeze over too fast and ended up losing some people there. Okay, continuing on. So the fun part, picking the right tree for the right place. Now, because we are in an urban forest, we have a lot more constraints that nature would have. And not all trees, no matter how much we love them, would be suitable for the place that we want them to be. So it's important that we are making sure that for the longevity of the trees and the longevity of essentially everything else around us, we want to make sure we're planting trees, the right tree in the right place. To start with, Palo Alto, the city of Palo Alto has a right tree, right place program. The link to that page is at the bottom, which you'll be able to get on the website. But essentially, the right tree, right place allows for free removal of the trees, of a tree that is directly under a power line. The removal would be at no cost to you, but they would leave the stump, and you can be reimbursed up to $300 for stump grinding. The replacement would be a rebate for up to $50 for a replacement tree that is utility friendly. Or if you want something larger, you can always plant further away from utility lines. But this program is designed to, help address all these trees that have been, continuously trimmed to the point where they might be failing. And also, protect our homes from a utility line that falls because of a tree. The combination might not be the best, but there are trees out there that are very suitable to be underneath these power lines. And if you live in South Palo Alto, Canopy can replace your tree for free, as long as the stump has been ground down. If you're in North Palo Alto, you can get that rebate of $50 to get a tree replaced. Okay, so planting the right tree in the right place is a guiding principle in urban forestry and arboriculture, which is study of trees, or the culture of trees, I guess you could say. You want to look at the characteristics of a tree, both short-term and long-term, when trying to pick a tree for a specific site. So when you're looking at where you want to put a tree, consider these things. Location. So what's around it, like sun exposure, how much space is there in that place you want to add a tree to? How much sun is it getting? What is the purpose of that space? Are you there to sunbathe, or are you there to have tea time in the shade? You want to consider, how far is it from any utilities, buildings, hardscapes? Because as we've all seen probably, is tree roots can cause damage when a large tree is placed too close to something that doesn't give, like our sidewalks. And when we're assessing where we want to put a tree and what kind of tree we want to put, we definitely want to consider these things. Maintenance. How much water are you willing to give it? How much maintenance are you willing to do for the tree? These are also things like, what's your capacity to taking care of this tree? And that can also affect what kind of tree you get. And then our local climate, as here on the side here, it's a range. We are in the USDA zones 9 to 10, 9B-ish. And so something to consider is, how much rainfall are we getting? How hot is it in our region? You don't want to plant something that needs, Washington state level cold and snow in a place that doesn't get any of that. Some when you're assessing the tree itself, you want to look at the species. How much sunlight does it need? How much water does it need? What kind of characteristics does it have? Are the roots really strong and probably going to break something versus is it not going to do anything at all, or it's going to be really minimal damage? What is the growth rate of that tree? Are you willing to wait for a slow growing tree, or do you want a tree that's going to grow fast? Do you want a native or a non-native tree? That's also something to consider. Personal preference really matters here as well as your own capacity. You really want to consider how tall it's going to be and not only look at how tall it starts out as. Because let me tell you, a crepe myrtle and a valley oak, they start out at kind of the same point. So they look like you could cram a ton into one space, but the reality is in 10 years, it's not going to look the same. They're not going to look the same at all. Maintenance is also something to consider. How much do you want to maintain it? What's your capacity? All right. So when you're choosing the right tree for the right place, you want to assess the site first. And from there, you can narrow down what tree species you can choose from, right? A happy tree, which is one that is well cared for and not over pruned, watered properly, is a healthy tree. And we have a blog post on some popular trees to plant here and now for the long term, including why now and including the why. That list is always changing though, and there's always something new that arborists learn. So, keep an eye out for all the new things, that science will tell us. When you're selecting species, nursery availability is not set in stone. If you are looking for something very specific, you want to make sure that you can actually find it too. Another thing to note is when you want to have a lot of trees, having a bunch of different species, multiple species, will help maintain the biodiversity of the overall space, but also protect your trees because diseases don't really travel from different families of trees versus, from tree to tree. So if a disease, so when I say that, I mean Dutch elm disease affecting Chinese elms. And there was a case study in the Midwest where I believe 40% of the canopy was destroyed by one disease. And so we do encourage planting multiple species so that doesn't happen here. Now, I don't have too many slides left, so I would like to do a little bit of an interactive activity, and you can comment you can either raise your hand or comment in the chat if they have access to the chat to kind of, what are some of the site conditions that you see from the image on the screen. And I won't tell you the address. I randomly picked it. I know it's in Palo Alto somewhere, but take a look, see if you can, briefly look at what are some of the site conditions that you see, and then how would that affect your tree selection? How would that limit your tree selection? And we'll take like 5 minutes. It might be faster to write it down or type it in the chat if we don't get to everyone.
Yes, everyone, you're welcome to raise your hand and I can unmute, or just put it in the question answer. You can just send your answer there. Oh, Ebony, we can't see your slides anymore. Oh, there you go. Does no one have a guess on what the site conditions are from this image? And how does it affect the tree?
All right, we have someone saying utility line, hardscape, and sun. Yes, these are, so I think, yeah, so these are some major factors here to consider. I believe this is a magnolia tree under the utility lines currently. And yeah, so you would need a tree that does not interfere with the power line when it's at maximum size. So if this tree was planted recently, it was most likely a little gem magnolia, which doesn't get beyond 25 feet tall, which is considered utility friendly. So that's something, so that's kind of one of the factors that we got into it that affected that. Sunlight, how would sunlight affect what tree we can choose from?
Oh, Ebony, your audio is sounding a little, it's breaking up a little bit. Yeah. Also, you're welcome to speak. If you want to unmute yourself as well. Oh, and we might have lost Ebony for a second. So she fixes her audio. We just want to give her one moment.
Does that help?
Oh yeah, that sounds better.
Yeah. Eventually my computer, it starts out fine and then it decides it doesn't want to. So I got to switch it around every so often.
No, that sounds a lot better. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So sunlight would mean that we would need to pick a tree that needs a lot of sunlight because it won't be able to handle it won't be able to handle too much shade. Or if it's a tree that needs shade, having too much sunlight will burn it. Hardscape. So in this case, you'd want a tree that doesn't get massive roots that would end up breaking your hardscape. There are guidelines that you can likely find online that you'll likely be able to find online so that you can make sure you know what your exact distances are, like 2 feet from hardscape, 10 feet from underground utility. Okay. Now, if I don't have any more takers on if I don't have any takers left for this piece, then I will continue on. So when you're selecting an appropriate tree species, you want to research what tree you want to plant. Select Tree is a Cal Poly resource. It's a great database of lots of urban trees that you can find in California or that can tolerate California conditions. But also Canopy's Tree Library is also a great way to take a look at what kind of, and these are trees that are approved in the city of Palo Alto and are probably very likely to be found here too. And that those condition or that information can also be found, including things like watering needs, what's the maximum height. Another resource I always recommend is CalIPSI, California Invasive Plant Council, so that you can check to see which invasive species you want to avoid. Now, there aren't too many tree species on that list, as trees are kind of hard to be super invasive, but there are definitely some that you want to keep an eye out for. And then when you're ready to plant that tree, we want to make sure that you learn to correctly plant the tree, because when you're transplanting from a pot to the ground, it will create shock for the tree. And so you end up with a need to, or so you want to make sure that it's all, worked out, like root ball's not bound, your nursery stake is out, your tree stakes are properly in, things like that. And below we have a how to plant a tree video that you're welcome to use as a resource anytime. It's available on our website. Another way to practice is to come join our volunteer opportunities around Palo Alto or any of our other service areas. And that's a great way to get hands-on experience and learn how to plant a tree for yourself. Now, we all know that trees benefit us, which is why we're here learning about trees and how to care for them. But can you tell me, so we've broken them into 3 categories: environmental, economic, and health. Since we don't have much more time remaining, here's a starting list of all the specific benefits that trees give us in these 3 separate categories. It's a decent list, so I won't go over each one. And since you'll have access to these slides, you'll be able to see these as well. So one question we get often is, how do trees save water if we have to water them? Watering is an upfront investment. We consider it an upfront investment, similar to children. You want to nurture it with, plenty of nutrients, water, soil, everything it needs to grow strong into establishment so that they can live off on their own. And trees are a great way to manage rainwater in a storm event, since they prevent flooding. They improve water quality, because trees do have a natural way to filter out pollutants. And when it slows the water down, it doesn't rush into our streets or our hardscapes. And instead, it seeps deeper into our soil and helps recharge our aquifers or our groundwater table. And drought tolerance, once a tree is established and doesn't need water, like individual watering, and can live off of rainwater or watering every couple of months, that aids in overall water conservation. So to summarize, you want to maximize your water conservation through trees and your landscaping. Planting the right tree in the right place, planting drought-tolerant species, incorporating more trees in your landscape for improved water quality, and mulching. Mulching is so important when you're trying to conserve water, because you don't have to use as much water when you've got mulch doing the slow release as opposed to letting that water evaporate. And our last topic tonight will be on removing your lawns, but how to help your tree transition. Now, lawns and traditional turf might look tidy, but they suck up a lot of water and they keep all the water on the surface without replenishing our ground table or helping our tree roots. And so they don't, other than an aesthetic way, other than from an aesthetic view, they don't offer as much environmental benefits. So Olivia did mention, there are rebates out there that will allow you to convert your lawn into a drought tolerant, into something drought tolerant. There's resources out there for that, companies that you can look into that specialize in drought tolerant turf. And so, Valley Water does still have their lawn conversion rebates. Olivia mentioned other rebates as well, so that's something to consider. When you make a watering plan for your trees and your new lawn, consider using our canopy tree watering guidelines, and consider installing drip irrigation so that the water goes directly onto the ground and there's less spray into the open air, which could lead to wasting more water. Keep your exposed soil mulched, even if you don't have anything planted there. That is a great way to keep everything still looking tidy, like in this picture, in this larger picture here. And another way is to consider graywater irrigation. So for those of you who aren't aware of or aren't familiar with graywater systems, they are a form of irrigation system that recycles wastewater from your shower, bathtub, laundry, and it redirects it towards your landscaping. The biggest benefit to it is lower water bills, because you're not using water from multiple sources. You're using water from one source and then recycling it. You don't have to worry so much about, natural rain, like the need for natural rainwater, because you're constantly recycling that water into your landscape, and that water doesn't run off into the road or something because it's busy watering your plants. The soap, if you're using the right soap, a biodegradable or biocompatible detergent or soap, those have nutrients that can go towards your plants. Your plants always need a varying levels of different nutrients, and having that that helps. And this is why they're great filters too, because they take the nasty stuff and then they turn it clean. One thing to note though is that gray water does not include wastewater from your kitchen sink, dishwasher, or toilets. That all goes towards the sewer because it's considered black water and not good for our environment. That's actually it for the content. And now we have the next few slides are actually going to be all on our community resources. These are resources that you can find through Canopy's website, or you can always email me and I can direct you to where you need to go. Wait, what happened there? Oh, nope, didn't mean to do that. Nope. Okay, there we go. Other resources that you can look at are rebates with the Valley Water District, other, actually a lot of these resources you probably saw throughout the presentation. Bosca themselves, they have a graywater page with additional resources on graywater systems if you're interested. And Graywater Action, they offer courses on graywater installation, to my knowledge. And I believe there is still time for Q&A.
Yeah,
So
perfect. Thank you, Avani. We're going to take time to take questions in the question and answer box. And then also I will get to those individuals who are raising their hands as well. We've had a question here, Avani, asking, my home insurance company recently required me to remove my 4 citrus trees that had grown higher than my roof line because of fire danger. Is it a good idea to replace them with new trees?
Home insurance. Home insurance is a tricky one. From what I understand, they don't like having any trees near any roof. So I hate to say it, but until your home insurance company is better educated on trees in general, like specific trees, you'd probably end up with the same issue because citrus trees aren't even that big to begin with. And so if they had you remove it just for being higher than your roof line, citrus trees aren't even a fire danger, to be honest. We in the arborist industry have very conflicting advice when it comes to home insurance companies. Specifically, they don't like trees at all, and we understand that there are some trees that you don't want to plant near your home for the fire danger, for breakage, and things like that. But if they got you to remove 4 citrus trees, I'm sorry, I wouldn't, unless there was a list that they would approve. You know, I would say planting trees that have smaller canopies. I don't know how many stories your house is. If it's a 2-story house, then I recommend something that doesn't grow taller than 25 feet. If it's a 1-story house, then I'd probably go with something that doesn't extend past 15 feet. In this case, I think you could replace those citrus trees with native shrubs, for instance, because we have tons of native shrubs out there that get large and can still provide shade benefits, but they aren't really like trees. And so that's kind of like my middle ground that I would offer you. I hope that helped.
Thank you. For the next question, where can we get pruning tips for citrus trees and when to fertilize them?
I believe Canopy is actually working on compiling that sort of list. We're not experts on citrus trees, but I do think there are organizations out there that specialize in citrus trees. Fresh Approach out in East Palo Alto might have more information for you. Eco-friendly ways to deal with squirrels. I can't say I know. I usually just tend to just leave them, but I'm not sure what kind of problems you're facing with the squirrels. If it's because they keep eating your fruit, that's a little difficult. Citrus trees are great ways. It really kind of depends on what trees you're planting when it comes to squirrels. Because if they can eat something off the tree, then they'll go for it. And then I think you said that there were people who have their hands raised.
I'm not seeing any at the moment.
Oh, okay.
If anyone has any more questions, please feel free to now at this time raise your hand or add them to the chat. While people do that, I want to continue to emphasize that we have a lot of great programs and rebates for residents to really take advantage of to do these types of projects at their home. There's a lot of resources out there where you can stack rebates and save a lot of money as well. So I just really encourage everyone to take advantage of these. And then for these slides, we will be sharing them with everybody in an email. And then also this was recorded. So in a couple weeks, you should be getting a recording from us as well. We'll also be doing a follow-up. In that follow-up email, we can include links to many of the resources that were mentioned during this webinar. I just want to thank everyone for their time and for joining us. If there's not any more questions, and I'm not seeing, and no hand raised, we can end right at 7, which is perfectly on time. So that's pretty good. But also we will be sharing our contact information. So if you have any follow-up questions for me or Ebony, anything that you need to know about city programs, city rebates, any of our resources, we're here to help. So please reach out to us. We'll leave our contacts as well, so you have those. Right.
All right.
I'm not seeing anything else. So we're going to conclude this webinar for this evening. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. I hope everyone has a good night.
All right. Thank you. Thanks, everyone. I hope you have a great night. Bye.
Bye.